Well, good Monday morning, friends. Mark Holmes here, of course, with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, as well as Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. So let's get open for business here, and let's wake up the football gods. I hope everybody is having a great day today. It is, of course, Monday morning hangover, although we actually got to kick back, relax, and watch the other teams fight it out this weekend. And lo and behold, the talking heads out there that used to call the NFC East the NFC Least, can't say that anymore. You've got to call it the NFC Beast, because if we were to start the playoffs today.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs?
If we were to talk about playoffs today, everybody in the NFC East would be in. How crazy is it that the Washington Commanders, left hand up, would literally be the 7th seed? If they were the NFC South or the NFC West, they would be the number 1 seed, and they're 4th in our division. I'm not sure. I'm sure the Eagles feel great about their win. We lost to Green Bay when we went to Green Bay and Lambeau Field and Aaron Rodgers and crew. Their offense, wow. This is where I look at it and say, Kellen Moore, you might want to run the football a little bit more against the Green Bay Packers defense, since they gave up over 300 yards on the ground. That was just freaking insane. But hey, what do I know? I'm a guy with a day job and a voodoo doll. I'm not an offensive coordinator. But if you are the Eagles, you have to look at it and say, our defense is not as strong as we'd like. Your offense is doing great things. They did great things last night. But your defense is very susceptible to the run. And that should be a worry for you guys. Again, right now it's looking like all roads are going to go through the stink to get to the Super Bowl. But if you don't get that defense together, I don't know how long it's going to last. So Aaron Rodgers ended up getting injured last night. He already had the, broken thumb and rib injuries. We may have actually seen the last of Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. It was about 15 years ago that he took over for an injured Brett Favre and never gave the reins back. But last night, seeing Jordan Love play, after all of what we've heard about Jordan Love looked like he was firing the ball better than Aaron Rodgers. This is the latest on Aaron Rodgers' situation. He's going to be looked at and is going to see if he can still play.
Ian Rappaport, let's circle back to Aaron Rodgers. We saw him banged up last night. He came in banged up, and then, as Kyle just said, was put into the Eagles' trash compactor. What can you tell us this morning about the Packers quarterback?
That's right. We already knew that Aaron Rodgers was dealing with a thumb fracture. My understanding is it is an avulsion fracture, which means the ligament tears away from the bone, takes a piece of bone with it. Is extremely painful, leads to joint instability, and it's been why he's been struggling to throw the ball the last month or so. And then we got another injury for Aaron Rodgers last night. Actually, 2 different times, 2 different hits caused him to experience significant rib pain. One was a hit in the second quarter, and the other was the hit that you just saw right there with Hassan Reddick and Brandon Graham. That's right, kind of crunching Rodgers together. He went in, got X-rayed, said after the game that it was hard to tell whether or not the ribs were fractured based on the X-ray. So that means he's going to get an MRI, likely get a CT scan as well, just to tell if there are tiny fractures in there. He was worried about a punctured lung. It seems like that is not the case. If Rodgers said very clearly, if he is able to go, he will still go. But obviously some uncertainty regarding the Packers quarterback right now.
I, for one, actually think that Aaron Rodgers made it easier. Him being injured actually makes it easier for the Packers because, when you start looking at the season is lost. Let's be clear here. The season is over for Green Bay. They are so far behind right now, and so many teams that they're looking up to, the defense that cannot stop the run, that the season's over with. And now it's time for the Packers to find out if Jordan Love is the guy or not to be able to take over for Aaron Rodgers, who is getting paid $50 million. And as I look across the board, I need to actually look at all of the numbers of quarterbacks. But recent history right now of paying quarterbacks, you know, when you think of Aaron Rodgers, they paid him $50 million. You think of Russell Wilson, I think got 48. You know, Deshaun Watson, who got a guaranteed $230 million. He's just getting back on the practice field now. You think about Kyler Murray and his big deal. It doesn't seem like those 50, 45, million dollar quarterbacks are doing good in the latest round of the big quarterback signings. And even right now, Josh Allen is struggling. Josh Allen, who got his new deal, he's had an NFL leading 14 turnovers between fumbles and interceptions. So it's interesting to see how this goes. And we're hearing rumors that the Eagles are talking about a $50 million extension for Jalen Hurts. Now, here's the big question here. Who is the biggest threat right now in the NFC for the Eagles?
Thanksgiving, so now we're really in the nitty-gritty. Who is the biggest threat in the NFC to the Eagles right now, RC?
I think it's the San Francisco 49ers. And, you can obviously add the Dallas Cowboys into that. But when you think about what DeMeco Ryans, the defensive coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers, has that defense doing, the way that they fly around on the second level with guys like Fred Warner and Greenwell, the way they play up front, led by Bosa. I think what they can do defensively is actually one of the teams that can stifle what Philadelphia Eagles have offensively in Jalen Hurts in that run game. And also when you think about offensively having the diversity in all of their different skill players to go from CMC to Deebo Samuel to Brandon Ayuk to George Kittle and also a guy like Kyle Shanahan, I believe that is one of the tougher matchups both schematically and based on roster that the Philadelphia Eagles can have in the entire playoffs.
Yeah, we haven't shown you the highlight today of San Francisco, a fairly easy win against New Orleans yesterday, shutting them out. So that's one vote for San Francisco. Who's the biggest threat?
Yeah, I got to go Dallas. I think the San Francisco defense is incredible. The Dallas defense is not that much worse. They're just as good in many areas. But more importantly, they have an offense that you can trust. I think the 49ers offense can be explosive, but also it came up a little bit lame yesterday in that game. They can do that from time to time. That's not what you're getting with the Cowboys. You're going to need to score points. We just saw that Dan did that great touchscreen about how good that Eagles offense is. You're going to have a team that's going to be able to put up those points and have a quarterback that can overcome his coaching on occasion, and that's not what I expect to see from So
your vote is basically Dak over Jimmy G is what gives you the confidence in Dallas over the Niners.
They have comparable defenses, and I go Dak over Jimmy.
How about you, Danny?
It's San Francisco, and candidly, I'm closer to placing San Francisco as the actual team to beat in the whole conference than I am thinking that Dallas is the team that is most capable of beating Philly. In the last 3 weeks, this is why we don't trust the Cowboys. 3 weeks ago, you get the loss on the road to Green Bay when you collapse in the fourth quarter. Then you dump trunk Minnesota, and then you kind of squeak by the Giants this past week on Thanksgiving when they have absolutely nobody left because of all their injuries. You can't do that in the playoffs. And the reality is this for San Francisco. I get it. We don't trust Jimmy G. He don't got to do a ton. They have so many different people to throw. I don't like their pass protection right now, but that defense. And let me be very clear. If DeMeco Ryans has anybody who's a good offensive mind that's going to go with him, he should be the #1 head coaching candidate next year. Their defense is so stinking good. I think San Francisco is right neck and neck with Philadelphia more than I think Dallas is.
Yeah, and I'm going to say Dallas just because that's what I do.
And it's right.
And I don't like a show. They played Thursday, and I wasn't here Friday, so I was very hurt by that. So I didn't get a chance to say, how about them Cowboys after they come off of their win. But I tend to, actually, in an honest moment, kind of lean towards the 49ers right this minute as well. I will never not pick the Cowboys because that's just the way the get-up works. I need the Cowboys playing deep into January, but the 49ers would scare me to death. Everything about the 49ers would scare me to death if I'm playing them in the playoffs.
Not everything.
Everything. That quarterback doesn't lose games. I know he doesn't scare you.
He's like tied with
individually,
Steve
but
Young,
they don't
bro.
lose games
His
when
record's
he
like
plays.
Steve Young's record or something crazy.
Yo, I thought we were past this. I know sometimes on Wednesday I got to deal with quarterback as a winning stat, but I thought on Monday we was past
We don't
quarterback
live in
as a
that
winning
world.
stat.
We don't live in that world.
I mean, come on, let's be serious. We saw what their team was last year in the playoffs. Their defense won them 2 games. At some point, you're going to need your quarter. They won them 2 games when the quarterback played poorly. At some point, you're going to need your guy to step up.
I just think there's so many people to throw the ball to. I don't think, hey, get to your third progression. It's George Kittle.
Yeah.
You know?
Or hand it to one of them. RC, give us a quick final word.
No, I think I agree with Dan on that. It's not necessarily about, Jimmy Garoppolo just has to be a very good point guard right now. Get the football out of your hands to your playmakers and allow them to make big plays. And I think that's the difference from the previous years.
And they're as explosive as Dallas's defense is, the 49ers scares me even more.
All right, so the 49ers, everybody's on the 49ers bandwagon. Well, regardless, it's, it looks like the 49ers are going to win their division most likely, which means they'll have a home playoff game as opposed to being a wild card last year, having to go on the road with everything. This is the bad thing for the Cowboys, of course, with the Eagles, being, although the Eagles do have a little, they could get a hiccup. We got the Titans coming up this week. We got the Giants that will be playing for their playoff lives. We still have the Commanders they have to face. They have us, of course, but we need 2 losses by the Eagles. One being, of course, us, and the other one, we just need to get another one before then. But more than likely, the Eagles will probably end up winning the division with the schedule that they've played. Nothing against them or their schedule. You play the people that are in front of you. But for the Cowboys, the best we can do, if that is the case, is the 5th seed, which would mean that we would be playing the lowest seed that's a division winner, which right now is Tampa Bay. I don't see Tampa Bay catching San Francisco, so they will be probably the lowest division-winning team. And, of course, us, where we're sitting right now, unless Washington or the Giants catch us, and since we own the tiebreaker between the 2 of them, they would have to be a game up above us, and that would be really, really difficult, I think, going down the stretch. The Giants literally have the circular firing squad of the NFC East right now. They have the Commanders this week, the Eagles the following week, and then they play the Commanders again. So one of those 2 teams could drop out of the playoff race, possibly, if Seattle wins. Seattle right now is a half game behind the Commanders. So there's still, with 5 weeks to go, a lot of football to be played and a lot of decisions that will have to be made. Final note, there isn't anything new on the Odell Beckham front. It seems to be the whole airline thing is just kind of swept under the rug now here. Sounds like it's more of a misunderstanding where Odell was on the flight waiting to take off and was asleep and passed out. Some of us, when we pass out, I know, some people, you touch them like crazy. Other people, you got to shake the hell out of them to wake them up. My wife is one of those ones you got to shake the heck out of her to wake her up. And that may be the case. And the flight attendant was a little bit overzealous. Maybe she was an Eagle fan. I don't know. But, when we heard the initial reports of Odell, that he was drifting in and out of consciousness, you thought, was he hungover, drunk? Was he on some medication or some drugs or something where he wasn't coherent and things like that? After hearing that he was escorted off the plane and then seeing videotapes of him walking, carrying his bags and stuff and being escorted, you looked at that and said, that doesn't sound like somebody who the initial reports was ill and incoherent. So that's where it is, and no charges were filed and so on, and I don't think that this will preclude teams from looking at him and trying to see if they can sign him or not. So with that being said, we're done here this morning. We will check in and see where everything goes. I'm curious on the Eagle fans who didn't show up until the coast was clear last night. How are you feeling about your team this morning? That's the real question.
Holmes here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the journey.